What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, NIO, and the overall markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, we had some big news that came out involving President Trump that caused the market to actually sell off just a little bit, only to see a big bounce afterwards once we got new earnings. So let's break down exactly what's going on with NIO and the markets. NIO has been talking about how they're working on their new AI chips and they're trying to improve their overall multimodal sensor systems that are trying to use AI for new technological advancements. They're also going to use this to improve the real time decisions and the overall intelligence capabilities of their product. This has been some very, very interesting news so far, especially with the new concept models. And on top of this, Mizuho gave NIO a more neutral rating. The price price ratio is going up just a little bit. And then overall, when it comes to seasonality, keep in mind that Fridays tend to be green about 53% of the time for the share price. And so far, we did see some consolidation. We're going to see if we bounce a bit tomorrow morning. Overall, we're still holding up quite well. Jerome Powell, according to some different Fed chairs, he was not being as dovish as many of the different Fed officials wanted him to be, because once again, we don't really know if there's going to be like a greater chance of there being a cut, right? He kind of like decreased the probability of us getting a cut in December, which is part of why the market sold off. The market also sold off because of the big tech earnings that came out yesterday, Meta, Microsoft, and Alphabet. And then we started to bounce with President Trump potentially meeting up with Xi Jinping, the president of China. But unfortunately, the leaders did not necessarily sign a final agreement, although they have agreed to it. It wasn't officially signed yet. President Trump also said that a deal could be officially signed pretty soon, but there were no stubborn or any like stumbling blocks that came out. The US did agree to decrease tariffs on China by 10%, and China had agreed to once again limit the export controls for a year, so that gives them more time to negotiate. And then besides that, China agreed to buy more US soybeans, and the list goes on. But there was no TikTok deal, nothing involving Taiwan or Nvda. So it wasn't really that insane. It wasn't really something that caused a big wow factor for the markets. I think that what the US and China have done was very necessary, very productive, and very important. But not much of this was priced in. This is kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event. That's why the market kind of like sold off a bit today. It's also reacting to Jerome Powell being not as dovish as what the market may have wanted. Now, in the after hours today, the stock market is bouncing because we just got Amazon and Apple's earnings. Amazon's doing well. They beat on their EPS and revenue. They have great cloud growth, and their AI demand is still growing. And overall, they had good guidance. The share price is up. Apple is also up right now. They had good earnings overall, good growth, and we've seen a historic $4 trillion market cap for them. Revenue and EPS both beat expectations, and they're predicting Chinese revenue to be strong. So we're seeing some good news from Apple. With the two of the biggest companies in the world, they're both doing very well right now. The share prices are up. Coinbase is actually kind of flat, not really affecting us as much, but still, it's a little bit in the green. So that's part of why the market might bounce tomorrow. It's also because we have lots of puts expiring. And tomorrow is also going to be the last day of October of 2025. And then it's never going to be October again for 2025. So it's the last October, last day of the month tomorrow. There's lots of puts expiring at 2.92 put to call option ratio. I think that could fuel a bit of a bounce, but then it might just be a temporary move. NIO might try to bounce with the market as long as we don't lose 7. We're looking for an attempt for 7.4 again with this accumulation. It looks a bit more bullish as long as you hold above $7. SPY dumped quite a bit today, but we haven't fully filled this gap here or the second gap. I would think that we could go a little higher to try to fill the gap from the morning with the big tech earnings, but I can't promise we're going to take out this high. If we take out 690, then we're bullish. We could continue to break up, but I think we're going to come just short, and then we could return once we get to November to start filling some of these gaps. I would like to see us fill the gaps to like 677 to 672. And once everything fills, then we're looking for another rally right back up, a big V shaped move right back up for November. And then we're going to likely continue to rally to new all time highs. So a move like this is what I'm looking for on SPY and the QQQ. They are bouncing for now thanks to the big tech earnings. We have not come close to filling the gap yet on the QQQ yet. So it's back to trying to push for like 635. May consolidate. I'm not sure if we break the all-time high, but if we end up coming short, we could be looking for a move like this, a bit of a retracements to fill some of these gaps, and then we're going to be looking for a big move right back up if that ends up being the case. So there might be a good opportunity on the QQQ to fill this first gap pretty soon, and then we're going to be looking for a big bounce to continue once we get to November. So that's what I'm essentially eyeing. On the IWM, we're looking for a bounce to retest 246 before it potentially ends up dipping. ES is bouncing. It's trying to get back above 6,900. It might try to like bounce here. It also like came very close to filling the gap. It hasn't fully filled the gap, but it came like halfway through. So it could bounce a little bit. We might see a temporary bounce tomorrow, but then as time goes on, ES will likely continue to return to fill these gaps. It might even like retest the previous all-time high level. That would be very, very healthy. And then that's just how we might start off November before we see another historic run to new all-time highs, and we will eventually return to the 7,000s before the year ends, in my opinion. For NQ, we're also looking quite bullish. This is bouncing thanks to Amazon and Apple. Look for some upside, and it might be forming like a double top. But I do think there is a risk of it coming back down to fill this gap in the upcoming weeks. That would be very, very healthy. And that's going to be another buying opportunity for us to continue to run. Bitcoin dipped and now is trying to rebound. We're looking for a retest of 109,000, and we'll see if it rejects. On Tesla, we're doing quite well. We're trying to make higher lows here. We could be retesting essentially that 445 area to 450. Then we're going to see if we reject to continue to come back down to fill this gap, and we'll see what happens after that. On Nvidia, we're looking more bullish. We might kind of pop here before it drops back down to 198, and we'll see what happens after that. Aapl is bullish right now. It's up about 3% in the after hours. Great job after earnings. Nice pump by Apple, breaking all-time highs. Good growth, good demand for their iPhone sales, especially in China. That's a good piece of news. Coinbase is also trying to rebound a bit. It's up about 2.6%, but then we're going to see if it rejects off its EMAs. Amazon's the big winner. It's up 13.5%. This is what's going to drag the market up higher tomorrow. Then we're going to see if we get a rejection later on, but as of right now, this will be leading the market higher, in my opinion. I think Meta may also bounce for 688. Google may also try to bounce for 290 before it potentially rejects, and Microsoft may also push back up to about 535. The VIX is also going to likely come down a little bit thanks to the market bouncing. So I do think that the market may try to bounce a little bit in the morning, but this might just be a temporary move up before we see another rejection back down. And then on top of that, I just want to add on that NIO may try to follow the trend with some upside for the 7.2s. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get, but look for some upside as long as $7 holds for the temporary term. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. The news has been more optimistic. President Trump met up with President Xi Jinping. They had a good amount of agreements that came out, but they haven't really signed the deal yet. So I don't think that's really, I don't think that's enough to really get the market to bounce. That's why we saw a bit of a sell-off. But thanks to Amazon, I think the market's going to try to bounce. The NIO is going to try to bounce with the market. And then we're going to see what happens heading into November. For now, there might be a temporary bounce. So watch that very closely. Thank you for listening, and peace out.